Good afternoon. One, two, three, just to check if audio works. Great. So thanks for okay. Hi, can you hear me? Hi, good. And you? The sound is very far. Let me check. Can you see my presentation? I'm sharing the presentation. Okay, great. And if I do, is it okay? Okay, perfect. You want me to leave like this, or do you want me to unshare the presentation? I stopped sharing.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Hi. Shall we start our conference? Everything ready, I think. Let's start. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alexandra Bobzhitsova, and I'm the moderator of our plenary session. And I'm the founder of the new Russian conference project INRU. You can see our events on inruonline.com. And I am also a member of a Russian Designer Association. And we just opened a new direction connection with the communication design. I am delighted to be the moderator, and I'm very proud to lead this panel. And also, I would like to thank our organizer, and especially St. Petersburg design faculty, for this opportunity. Actually, our conference, Design, Vertical and Horizontal Rails, is an online conference organized by 3 Russian schools: Peter the Great, St. Petersburg University, Polytechnic University, and Art and Design School, Higher School of Economics, and St. Petersburg University in collaboration with Cumulus. And today we have a sort of training before next annual Cumulus conference, which will be held in Russia in June 2022. And our organizers asked me to prepare some sort of a tiny storytelling about St. Petersburg and St. Petersburg University. And this is my story. St. Petersburg is a former capital of Russian Empire and the city of 2 Russian revolutions. And in the Soviet time, it was an industrial center, a place of technical and engineer thought, thinking, with only 2 of the universities specialized in humanitarian sciences. And nowadays, St. Petersburg is cultural capital of Russia. There are about 70 sites protected by UNESCO. Moreover, the city welcoming 15 million travel tourists here every year. And that's why we can talk about St. Petersburg also as a Russian travel industry capital. And actually, there is no doubt that St. Petersburg may be becoming the capital of Russian design as a possible scenario of future developing. And you see that our design faculty started its activity only 10 years ago and has already achieved great results. And now, in the right time, I am in the center of our organization committee, and some great guys helped me to be in touch with you. And I think we have to continue our work in that direction. By the way, if we speak about St. Petersburg University, we can say that our 2 presidents graduate from St. Petersburg University, and also the Prime Minister, and a lot of members of our government. And I'm sure that this is a great opportunity, all these facts, for developing a great design in the St. Petersburg and the St. Petersburg University. Anyway, Design, Vertical and Horizontal Growth aims to encourage our design community to express their opinions on the role of design as a humanizing practice in the context of multi-directional development. Our discussion focuses on design as a practice of sorting for areas of growth, support and balance. And I think that we can reconcile the traditional way of life and cultural values with a new approach, design approach to solving problems arising dramatically in our society. Not dramatically arising, yeah. And our conference brings together relevant research in the field of design, and we see the 3 main frames there: future human, creative industry, and interaction. And our day-to-day day hosted by the St. Petersburg University brings to the topic the special focus interaction. And within our days, we try to explore the communication mediated by digital technologies. And today we have 5 brilliant speakers, and I'm sure they will present for us their big ideas, their positions, and some interesting facts and figures about their design coordinate space, and about some connection between human and digital, and about cutting-edge technologies, artificial intelligence, digital art, and interaction design. And now I'm finished my introduction, and I would like to introduce you our first speakers, Mr. Alec Nandi, designer, creative director of Architempo and Spread Design, professor of design, creativity and innovation at the Institute Paul Bocuse, Brussels. And I would like to pass you the our little scan on this online reality.
Thank you. Thanks, Alexandra, for the introduction. And
I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Is it 1, 2, 3?
Some. Yeah.
So on this side, we are having the audio okay. Is it okay on your side?
We can hear you, Alec. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Anna Lindberg wrote us. Yeah. Maybe it's only my problem.
1, 2, 3.
No.
Just testing again. Can you hear me? Alexandra? So
Finland hears. Okay.
I'll try again.
Yes, Salomir.
Yeah. Good morning. 1, 2, 3. Tatiana, can you hear us? Let me know. 1, 2, 3. So this is interesting because we are getting into the tension between physical and virtual. Let me know if you hear me. I'm busy speaking. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. On this side, audio is okay. Okay, Anton says that he can hear me. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Anton. Nice meeting you all, and thanks for having organized this. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you. So I would like to thank all the organizers team. You are 3 school university together. And I would like also to thank Eya Salmi from the Cumulus Association, who is partner with all of you and has enabled this moment of conversation. So we'll have about 20 minutes to share some thoughts, and then we can interact and try to get into some of the topics I'll be getting into. Thanks, Alexandra, for setting the stage. And as you mentioned, we have a number of speakers who are gonna travel with us into these complex topics. As a quick intro, as you mentioned, I'm busy with Architempo and Spread as design agencies. And I'm also putting all my design research and design education activities under an umbrella which I call ClapFab. So the question I'll try to explore with you today is connected to a term I coined about 20 years ago, which is called transfiction. And transfiction is coming from what I used to explore as territories, which is transportation into fictional spaces. And this moment of conversation with all of you allowed me to go back into some research I was doing in transfiction. And I'll try to bring some of this questioning here with some other design journeys. The core of my activities during these last 20 plus years is at the intersection of design on one side and storytelling or narrative on the other side. The challenge we have with these two worlds are they are fuzzy worlds, or they are busy with activities in fuzzy territories. And there are some fascinating interconnections between design as a set of activity, and I'm sure that all of us in these virtual rooms will agree that the notions of design are revisited regularly and specifically nowadays. And narrative is also something which is being revisited for the last, I would argue, 10,000 years. Now let me do a small break for a few seconds and thank the translators who are busy translating this from English to Russian, and for whom it's a challenging work, translating from one language to another in real time, and we should pay some attention to all the work they are doing. This tension of translation is at the core of our design activities, and I'll come back to that in a few seconds. So on one side, we have narrative. On the other side, we have design. I would like to step back and say, on one side, we are busy looking at what is happening now. And on the other side, we are busy thinking, reflecting on what we can do next. And that is the essence of design in a way. How can we think about the next and try to project ourselves and try to shape it? So it allows us to kind of flip back the tension between design and narrative and design, now and next. So this will be my entry point into the title I gave, Transfiction, transportation into fictional places, transportation into the next. And some of you might have seen that on my website. I have that claim, which is design begins always with a narrative. And that is one way of looking into design activities. When we tell a story, we are in a position to prototype the next true story. And we can think about systems, we can think about interaction modalities, we can think about artifacts, we can think about infrastructure. And that will bring us to our questioning of the day with all the speakers and with all of you. What are the interrelationships between we humans and digital systems? Because digital is the core topic of today's conference. One of the challenges we have for the last 20, 30, 40 years is that digital is coming from, in terms of questioning, in terms of making, is coming from the areas of human-computer interaction, HCI. And some 20 years ago, some people were not happy with the HCI paradigm. And there came the notion of interaction design, trying to understand the behavioral aspect rather the interactions in terms of dialogic between human and machine. And we'll try to go deeper into that and reframe. The topics I'm interested in are the notions of scale, of scape, of scope, of speed. And all these questions, I have been approaching this into some other talks, which are on the web, which are in other keynotes I have been sharing with different audiences. And here I would like to focus on one critical question, the question of utility. Now, how do I connect utility, utile, to transfiction and storytelling? That is something I would like to open up. If I talk about utile, I need to talk about futile. And there is this interesting paradox when we are busy doing innovation, when we are busy exploring, we are looking into some stuff which may seem futile and see how they can be utile, or the reverse. And let us take these two keywords as triggers for thinking our practice of design, our practice of how can we explore the next. What I'm doing by playing with utile and futile is also zooming in or zooming out, which I would argue is one of the core essence of our activities in design. And I would like to refer to Nigel Cross. Nigel Cross, as a design theoretician, was talking about the place of science, the place of art and humanities, and the place of design. And science is about the observation of phenomena. Art and humanities is about the expression of someone on what is happening on the planet. It's about the expression. And design is about the exploration. So that was Nigel Cross' kind of positioning of this notion. I would like to reflect on that and expand, and I would like to argue that design is more transversal, and that today we need also to think about the design of organizations, the design of systems. And the way Nigel Cross shared his view was in a way centered on the object, the physical object, and the decorative art way of looking at things. And I would like in 2020 with digital to say that we have to be more holistic in our exploration. And that brings me to what is the core topic of the day: AR, VR, MR, augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality. And transfiction, as I mentioned to you, came up about 20 years ago. And the questioning then was, how do we explore the crossroads between art and technology, between virtual and real spaces, between real time and diegetic time, the time of the story? So the exploration was trying to look from the point of view of narratives, point of view of storytellers, and try to say, okay, what are the questions we could have if we question cinema? Cinema as a linear montage way of sharing stories, combining images and sounds, and projecting, transporting the spectator in another place. Or what about thinking of virtual reality and augmented reality versus scenographies? Scenographies and performing arts looking at the place and the interaction modalities. If we look at all these, we have fascinating questions about what I call age to human interactions, rather than HMI, human machine interaction. And our challenges in VR, AR, MR is, if I refer to this one, is to try to position ourselves into this continuum, which is known as the Milgram continuum. On one side, we have real environment, augmented reality, and on the other side, we have virtual environment and augmented virtuality. And we are in the mix of all this. How do we position our activities in terms of shaping and making things into this continuum? And that is a complex question. And that is something that many of you as educators, as designers, as artists are busy with. And the question we can try to look at is, how do we focus and make things happen in trying to find the right framing? And we know that in our activities, we talk a lot about frame, unframe, reframe. And I try to zoom back and say, how do we figure what we want to frame? And that is the question I would like to share with all of you and try to say, okay, from figuring to framing to focusing, we have this kind of complex journey, which can be translated into exploration, experimentation, and execution, which can then be also seen as the ability to observe, the ability to analyze, the ability to spot opportunities, which in design thinking language, we talk about problem solution, the problem space, the solution space, but here I'm thinking a larger angle, and the ability to operationalize and to prototype our exploration. And if I try again to put verb connected to these nouns, I have the activities of describing stuff, which is a complex one, diagnosing and deciding. Now, one word I mentioned at the beginning of my intervention is the word scale, because I would like us to think about these systems not at the one-to-one level, and the theme of the day is interaction. What I'm interested in is not interaction of human with machine, of one human with system, but with humans with many humans. And nowadays we know on the planet that we are going through COVID, and we see that there are not only interactions, but inertia. How do we play with inertia into systems we are busy designing where we have multiple stakeholders? If we take that angle, all these verbs and these nouns take another resonance. And that is where I think that some of our research need to go and push some of our questioning. What is at stake? Who is it for? What if? How might we? How can we? We know all these questions. And often when we are researching, when we are in studio, where we are in lab, we tend to work on small scale problems. What happens if it's big scales? What happens if we abstract and look at all these questions in a very one-to-one question and try to re-articulate that into the 5W, where, when, who, what, why. If we look at the upper where and when, it can be, I would say, the tangible. Who and what, it is still tangible. The why, we are getting into intangible. And intangible is driving many of our questioning in terms of mixed realities, virtual realities, augmented realities. And our activity as designer, as artist, as researcher, is try to answer to that question. How? How do we interconnect this? How do we project ourselves into the next? And this, I would suggest, comes into resonance with this. We are busy thinking about systems. We are busy tooling some activities and some concepts in order to make the thinking tangible. Now, in order to have this thinking and tooling concrete, we are thinking about transformation. We are thinking about transportation. We are thinking about transactions. Transacting doesn't mean only transaction of money. Transacting means transaction of emotions. And so I'm interconnecting all this, and I'm coming with this kind of framework to rethink about mixed realities, virtual realities, or augmented realities with this abstract model. And this abstract model is pushing me into thinking about the how and the interactions. How are we shaping interactions? Which is a complex question, because shaping interactions is, of course, looking at functions, looking at form. And this is, I would argue, one of the driving paradigm of 20th century. And I would like to expand and add fiction. Because any activities of design is not only about function and form. It's about function, form, and fiction interrelated between each of these three components. Now, fiction allows us to rethink what I was stating at the beginning, which is the expression of intention. Now, let's remember what Richard Buchanan was telling. Design is doing philosophy with their hands. So if I take doing philosophy with their hands and try to make it tangible, I have this expression of intention, which is part of what I call fiction, because it doesn't exist yet. I know I'm getting into abstract territories, and I want us to be in abstract territories in order to make sure that during this day, we are exploring the questions at large and that we are not blocked by 20th century paradigms. We are not blocked by norms which are freezing our brains and forms which are 20th century forms. We are in a moment of storm, if I zoom out completely, and we need to look at this storm, inner, exogen, endogen, whatever, and try to re-question the shaping and making of system. We need to figure and frame and focus in different ways. And that is the sweet spot that you as a design department, you in a university, Cumulus Association as a network of school is busy pushing us to explore. If we took this business language, we look at desirable, feasible, viable. If we go back, this is more conceptual. If we go again back, this is more contextual. So from contextual to conceptual to tangible, we are looking at different facets of making systems. Bottom line, we are looking at this: physical dimensions, social dimensions, and cognitive dimensions. Now, the challenge with this physical, social, and cognitive is not the one-to-one, is not the few-to-few, but it's the one-to-many, the few-to-many, the many-to-many, and the scale. How do we shape systems where we have interesting and meaningful interactions in complex systems? That is what I try to share with you in a few minutes in this questioning, in a very abstract manner. And I'm sure that some of you will wonder, but where can we go out of that? We have to try, we have to explore, we have to enact, we have to abstract, we have to interact. And mixed realities and the subdomains, virtual reality and augmented reality, are domains we are busy with for the last 40, 50 years. And we see that it comes, it goes down, it interests, it disinterests, because in many of the trials and the experimentation we were busy with, or we are busy with, the social dimension is or was missing. And today, 2020 is pushing us to be in so-called interaction modalities at a distance. And we have to reinvent not only our relationship to distance, spatial distance, but to temporal distance. We have to invent new rituals of interactions, and we have to embed that into new conversations. And what I try to do during this is try to open up and shape a mapping of different questions which keep me busy into this kind of context. Everybody has heard of VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, or some talk about tuna, or some talk about BANI, which are all acronyms talking about unpredictability. And as designers, as I was mentioning, we are busy with questioning and trying to understand the now to explore the next. And I hope that with this kind of abstract journey in 20 minutes, we began to open doors, which many of you have already opened, which many of you have already explored or are busy exploring. But what I try to do is share my journey in exploring and my re-questioning especially nowadays, of things I have been touching, but which I'm trying to retouch in different modalities. So Alexandra, thanks for allowing me to take the floor. And I hope that we can go into some conversation if time allows and if system allows. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you very much for this brilliant and maybe complex speech. Я таки буду слушать тебя. Okay, sorry for technical problems. And my first question, can I ask you about your social or non-commercial work? Is it hard to be a president of your association, Interaction Design Association?
Yeah, so I'm now the past president. So I was president of Interaction Design Association in 2018, 2019. And IXDA, Interaction Design Association, was born in 2003 as an association which gathered people who are questioning the relationships between human and machine interfaces, but not from an engineering and HCI point of view, more from a behavioral and design point of view. And what is interesting for us is to say, how do we design things which are so intangible, like touching, virtuality? That is a complex question. And if we look at the physical constraint, the engineer would say we need a touch screen, we need to see how we react to that aspect. But on a behavioral and on a cognitive point of view, we would ask another type of questions, which are interrelated, but which is, if this is too slow, I'm getting bored or I'm getting impatient, and how can the design of system try to cope with this notion of impatience? And so these are the kind of questions that we are busy exploring as interaction designers, and IXDA as an association allows us to share the art of what is the state of the art of what is going on. So I hope that I'm answering to your question about these IXDA activities. Another chapter of IXDA activities is interconnected to Cumulus association activities with EIA, which is how can we as practitioners help Cumulus association and educators and design researchers to shape the curricula of what needs to be explored in design education. And that is where we have these two associations, Cumulus associations and IXDA Interaction Design Association, working together, because we know that in education we have some problems. Some problems like, for example, some of the designers who come out of design schools are not fit for activities in studio. There is a gap. And so we are trying to explore this kind of gaps with educators, researchers, and practitioners. And that led us to a set of activities which we coordinate with Eya Salmi and all the Cumulus Association teams, as well as with the IXDA teams, which is called PRE, Practitioners Meeting Researchers, Meeting Educators, where we are pushing this kind of design education and design research question fed by practice of design.
Thank you. Thank you. What are the association plans for the future, for example, in communication with the Russia designers community? Do you have any plans, special plans?
That's an interesting question. And what we tend to do is, IXDA was born as a bottom-up organization. We have more than 100,000 members with 200 local groups. And what we try to do is to make sure that the local groups take the floor and propose some projects. So what we could do with you in St. Petersburg and with your school and with Eya Salmi and Cumulus Association is say, okay, maybe we could envision a PRE session with you to try to explore questions which are specific to Russia or to St. Petersburg or to Moscow and see how they come into resonance with some global question. Because with PRE, we have been to places like Bogota in Colombia, or a few weeks ago we were in Kolkata in India, and before that we were in Cape Town and in South Africa. And it began in Lyon in France. We have been in Seattle. So of course, and I see Eya has put the website in the chat box for those who wanna check that. We have a place where we want to do distributed activities connected to PRE, practitioners meeting researchers, meeting educators. And here comes the moment where definitely we should do something with you all and with Eya and the teams. So I guess the future is in our hands, both yours and ours.
Thank you. And now a couple of questions about your personal research. Do you work alone on your research, or maybe you have a big, great team?
It depends. When we are busy at the early phase, I tend to work alone. And then I embark in what I would call modular teams. And based on the expertise I need, I build these teams and I try to prototype and to shape. So it's a kind of project-oriented phase where I have some questioning and I say, okay, how can I translate those questions and learn by doing and testing? And I have a kind of approach which is also, there is an exhibition, there is a deadline, and we have to deliver something. Because the problem with some of us when we are researching, we can spend ages researching. And sometimes we need to have external constraints, and exhibitions or sharing ideas with others to get feedback is a way to push ourselves into delivering something. Because remember when I said in my presentation, designing is doing philosophy with the hands. With the hands means we need to be tangible, we need to share, and we need to talk with the others in order to test our ideas. And we are not poets living in our own ivory towers. So I hope I'm answering your question.
Thank you. And maybe my last question, I want to return to our previous conversation about what do you mean when you say that design begins with a narrative? Please, once again, because for our culture it's very important to understand the meaning of narratives for design, for example.
Okay, so a narrative is the expression or a story of a set of moments. A narrative is something which is old, more than 10,000 years, which allowed people to share knowledge. A narrative is also a tool, articulated, argumented, which allows us to push some ideas of things which yet don't exist. Remember, I was telling, for me, the DNA of design, the essence of our design activities is to think and do things about things which yet don't exist. And narrative is a tool here which allows us to project into the non-existent and say, okay, I want to shape this thing. It doesn't exist yet. Do you think it's a good idea? And so forth. So that's why I say narrative is a way to present and project into the non-existent and comes into resonance with design activities.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we have additional questions from our audience?
So are the questions coming in the chat box, or are you having them coming to you?
Yeah. And now I think we have no questions, and I would like to say thank you for you attending to our conference, and we now can turn to our second speakers, and I think everything will right. Yeah, we can be.
Yeah,
yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you to all the team, as well as Aya and Anna, for having this session in place.
Thank you.
Have a great day there.
So, and now our next speaker, Anton Popovich, founder and chief technical officer of Hint Lab. And he studied and done some project about artificial intelligence. And if I'm not mistaken, he created a new sort of artificial intelligence research laboratory. And now he is leader of the research and technical manager. And Anton, are you ready to start?
Yes, I'm ready to start.
Yeah,
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining my talk today. And also I want to thank St. Petersburg State University for inviting me. And I will start my talk today. In design, there always have been people that are ahead of time. We all know their names. That are Leonardo da Vinci, Andy Warhol, and other people. Some of them gained their experience, and their name became popular among the people after the death, and some people became famous and well known during their life. And also, some of the people changed the world using their vision. And also, on the other hand, there are some people that do something outdated. They study in the university. They spend several years gaining some profession, gaining some knowledge that is not used because it became outdated and it's automated. For example, you can see on the right picture a couple of examples of such professions that are not needed anymore, but people spend a lot of time getting this profession. Unfortunately, we don't know their names of that people. I think that they were hardly happy about that. And it's great to know beforehand what will be used in real life, what will be demanded and what will not be demanded. Good news is that really we can estimate the future. We can predict what will be demanded in the future. Because we know that one of the major events that changes everything in the world is the event of technological revolution. We had several technological revolutions in our history. In the 17th, 18th century, machines began to spread everywhere. About 50 years ago, computers have changed a lot. And now we are experiencing the next technological revolution that is called revolution of artificial intelligence. So as I'm professional in artificial intelligence, I can tell you what I think will be changed in the nearest future and what is changing right now in the world. Why do you need to hear me? Why my prediction is is good? Why do you have to listen to me? My name is Anton Popovich, and I'm in artificial intelligence for many years. I'm a co-founder of the lab where we research new techniques that help artificial intelligence to boost its performance and to make our lives better. I will show you a couple of examples from our laboratory, our real researches that we have done. And the first example is the task OCR task, or that's an acronym for optical character recognition. This is our research about one-shot learning. What does it mean, one-shot learning? Usually, artificial intelligence needs thousands or even millions of examples to learn something. For example, here on the slide, you can see the example of a neural network that learns how to recognize handwritten text. On the right-hand side of the slide, you see a lot of 4 digits. All these digits are examples that are given to the neural network, so it can learn what is digit 4, how can it look like. Neural networks. So that's a popular data set, and it consists on 60,000 of digits. That's the amount of data needed for the algorithm to understand what digit do we enter for the neural network. But people study another way. If we are human, we don't need 60,000 fours to understand how it is written. We need some, just several examples, just few examples, and we understand what is it and how to write it. Another example, if we put our hand on fire, we need just one repetition of this case to understand that we should not do it anymore. So we don't put our hand on fire 1,000 times to learn that it can hurt you. So we tried to make optical character recognition work like humans do it. And on the next slide, you see the result of our research. At the beginning, this program has no idea of alphabet. We just draw some figures, just couple of times. We draw figure M. That's the blue text. And red text is what computer does for us. So it understood how this letter looks like. You can see it in the right upper corner. It recognized what is the figure, and it starts to write it instead of human. We repeated the same time for several other letters, just to show you the example. Here, the computer writes Y letter for us, and then I sped up the video to be faster, not to spend much time on this. So here here it learns Y, E, A, H, and P letters. Then the recognition begins. You understand that a computer doesn't know that it's letters. It's just some figures that we showed him. As you can see, now we write the letters to map these figures to some letters. That is just to understand does it work correctly. So then we will write some text and we will ask the computer to recognize symbols, and to understand that it recognizes correctly, we will predict that the letters that we will see are the same that we have mapped to these figures. So now we print some word. You understand that that letters that we handwrite are different each time. We cannot do it twice. We cannot be so procedures to write the letter absolutely the same way as we have done it before. So letters are different every time, but you can see that it has split the word map into tokens, into letters, and correctly recognized this word. On the bottom of the slide, you can see the word map. It's the recognized word. So let's repeat it a couple more times with other words. Word hey and word happy. I want to remember once more, computer didn't know anything at the start of this experiment. All it knows is figures that we gave him just a couple of times when we learned, when we taught him how the letters look like. So also we can reverse the process. We write the word on the bottom of the slide, and it handwrites it for us. So red color is the color of computer. We write something, mama, and we ask computer to write this text. So recognition works correctly. Handwriting works correctly, and it didn't require 60,000 repetitions to work. It required only 2 repetitions. That is what is one-shot learning, and this is one of our results from laboratory. Okay, let's go to the next example. That will be the last example. It's the design scheme of another our work, and this research took almost 3 months for our group of scientists. What you can see here, it looks like a game, but in fact, it's serious research. Largest green field is the real world where our characters begins its life. World contains enemies. They are yellow. Also, it contains food. The food is pink. You can see now one piece of food. And also, it contains rocks, brown. That's cells where we cannot step. Our character is black, and it sees only one direction and not so far, just several cells in front of it. And to the right, or from the main field, you can see its brains. At the start, it also knows nothing about the world. It doesn't know the effect of touching yellow creatures. It doesn't know that these are enemies. It doesn't know what is pink. Is it food or maybe something dangerous? It doesn't know even can the food move around, how it appears, with what probability. In fact, the food appears from enemies. So we have to hide from enemies, but to be close to them to get food from enemies. Okay, so now let's start the simulation. As we live, we learn all this information. We start estimating the probability of enemy at cells that we don't see based on our knowledge of how they move. You see the yellow matrix on the right side. That's our estimated probability. Also, we estimate food position based on knowing the fact that it's produced by enemies with probability that we also try to estimate, and based on our prediction of enemies position, that is pink matrix. Also, we estimate the probability of rocks in cells that we haven't seen yet. As our character gets new information about the world, it always compares it with his estimations and patches learned model of the world. Also, it develops strategies. It balances exploring food or hiding from enemies based on levels of food and life health levels that it has. Also, it chooses glance direction by exploration potential. So it looks at the direction where it expects the highest probability of enemies to be safe. All the strategies described above is not explicitly programmed. The strategy is automatically implied from machine learning model that we used in this work. So it's absolutely automatic. Imagine if we put this algorithm into, say, self-driving delivery robot. It will learn how to behave on streets, uh, whom to hide from, where is the danger, and how to get points by delivering food. So it's fully autonomous system that can go to the real city and learn how to develop itself to achieve its goals. So that's enough about us. Now I will say what can be useful for you. I understand the fact that changes driven by artificial intelligence will be ubiquitous. Um, a lot of work that traditionally done by humans will move to machines, and also among others, it will influence design and communication field. Of course, we need enormous time to mention everything that will change, and that's why I will focus just on four aspects and give one example on each of the aspects. You can see the list of these aspects on the left-hand side of the slide. Let's start from editing. Yandex Autopoet creates humorous rhymes based on search queries. Unfortunately, this joke can be understood just by Russian-speaking audience. So sorry, English-speaking audience, but it's really funny. What are the consequences? Does it mean that not only human can be poets? No, because that's just imitation. That's not composing truly new rhymes, truly new poems. It really is not a poem. It's just a rhyme, because poem is something that makes you get goosebumps, something with a sense, and these rhymes don't have any sense. That's just a humor, just combination of search queries written by humans. Another major invention in editing area is GPT-3 algorithm. It's the third generation of GPT algorithm that was invented by OpenAI uh, company that is driven by Elon Musk, among others, and it allows it continuous text for you. So you can write some text and it will continue it. The um, use cases of this technology can be everywhere. For example, you can ask questions and this machine will answer your questions. You can have a dialogue with it. So you will write text for one person and it will write text for another person. Also, it can do some summarization of the text. You can write a huge amount of text and ask this machine to summarize it for you. And what you can see on this example is you can write a header and ask this system to write text. You have to understand that it knows nothing about our world. It just tries to write believable text, but it devises all the facts just from the header that I gave it. It has no facts about the world. It just dreams based on the info given in header. So you can see if you can recognize the text, if it's not too small, you can see that uh, it tells that Anton Popovich is the inventor of the first computer in Russia. In fact, it's not true. I am not the inventor of the computer, but it used the text. It says that Anton Popovich will give a talk uh, about text processing technology. So it just guessed that I'm the inventor of the computer. But in fact, it's very close to Turing test passing. That's a very, very major technology. And you can play with it on the link that you can find on the bottom of the slide, play AI Dungeon IO. So that's the That's true for any of the slides. I always put links where you can play with the technology yourselves on the bottom of the slide, here and after. Also, you can use Grammarly service to check the effect on reader that makes this text on reader. We can use GPT-3 and Grammarly together to create a text that produces some desired effect on the person. This has a huge potential in marketing communication. Moreover, not only text, but the whole person may be created by machine. This person does not exist. Site creates a new portrait each time you refresh the page. So all photos of this page portray persons that look real but don't exist in reality. All this person don't exist. For example, you can create a person for political or advertising purposes. This person will have a face, photos, voice, text, but this person doesn't exist. That's awesome. It even can call you on Skype with a video. You all know, I think, deepfake technology. That's a technology that allows to imitate one's voice and substitute face of one person on video with face of another person. On the next frame, you can see, for example, Elon Musk performing a famous Russian song about space on a Soviet song contest in 1983. So, consequences, we cannot believe anymore in content that comes from unauthorized persons. News, comments, reviews, or stories, everything, we cannot believe it. If you are in a chat with 10,000 people, you cannot be sure that all these people are really humans. Maybe some of them are bots and they have propaganda goals, not just want to talk with you. So what it comes to, the world will come to micro communities where you know everyone, where you can trust everyone, and you will. I think that's also true for today. You don't trust the reviews from people that you don't know. You now believe only humans that you know. Okay, this bridge on the left-hand side is designed and implemented by robots. It doesn't resemble the bridges that humans do. I think you see that humans create bridges in other way, but it's more stable than human bridges, and it required less amounts of material. So it's more cost-effective than human bridge. And on the right-hand side, you will see a 3D printed house. And finally, design, the last topic for today. I think all of you have seen this meme about drawing an owl. It makes fun at how the transition from the circus to an owl is incredibly difficult. And this is not a meme anymore. Gauguin network from NVIDIA turns children's drawings into photorealistic landscapes in real time. That is how it works. Pix-to-Pix neural network turns sketches into kittens, even if they have body features of a human or even of a bird. It's true not only for kittens, but for handbags, houses, everything. Conclusion, implementation, that's the right side of each of the examples, can be done by artificial intelligence, but the idea, that is what you will see on the left-hand side, idea is given by human. Computer can implement what you say, but it cannot create the idea, and it asks people to create it. That's fake logotypes of Cumulus. You can see a lot of them on the picture, and creating it took about 10 seconds from me and $0. They are created for free on a site for creating logos by artificial intelligence. Another interesting idea is dynamic logo. Brazilian telecom operator Oi generates unique logos every time you enter the website. So on any advertising material, on billboards, on internet, on television, each time you see the new logo. That's an interesting idea. I think you all know what is Prisma app. Does it mean that if we can transfer style from your photo to famous drawing, does it mean that painting is dead? No. The answer is Kazimir Malevich. You know that everyone at the times of Kazimir Malevich could draw the black square that will be more black and more square than Kazimir Malevich have done. But he invented it and he became famous for it. So concept is everything, not the implementation. That's why imitators don't gain a lot of money, a lot of success, and we don't know their names. Because the main thing in art is not the implementation, but the idea, the original concept. So that's the last slide. I will recap everything that I have said before. The implementation is not appreciated now, and it will not be appreciated in the future. Everything that computer is great into is data analysis, is calculation. So it can imitate what you say, what you ask him to do, but it cannot do it itself. And human is great in creativity. You have to use meta creativity. It becomes crucial. Meta creativity is being creative about being creative. So that's the creating new concepts, something that have never existed before, like black square for Kazimir Malevich. Think outside the box. Computer is better inside the box, and human is better outside the box. Break the patterns, create something truly unique. If you are repeating something, better make computer do it for you. It will do it better than you. And also, everyone has to be a little IT nowadays. Learn tools because they will help you and will take some work from you. That's the last example. That's a picture that is drawn by a neural network, and it was sold on the auction for almost $500,000. Does it mean that AI won the contest in painting? No, because this money, because human got that money, not the artificial intelligence. That money is not the cost of work of neural network. That's the price of concept invented by human. So that is one more example that the main thing is to be creative, to create new concept. So that's all. Thank you for listening. I hope that I was helpful.
Thank you very much, Anton. I found a way to done with my very loud sound in the headphones. Now I can speak with you. It's very happy. And your presentation was very useful and helpful, and also stylish and trendy. And Anton, my first questions maybe was tricky. What do you feel about design?
What do I feel about design?
Yeah.
Yes, this question is really tricky. I don't know what to say just now.
Okay. I try another questions. I know that you started programming at age of 6.
Yes,
what are you going to do when you are 66?
Actually, I'm doing less amount of programming now than it was in the childhood. I make a transition from programming to creating new concepts in artificial intelligence, not in design. I think that that is what the future looks like. You may know that programming is also automated a little. Um, some simple programming tasks can be done by the machine, and also we can use GPT-3, as that I mentioned before, to program. It's possible to write the description of a function, and computer will create this the code of this function for you. That's awesome. Of course, it should be checked for bugs. It can contain some errors, but sometimes it generates really working code. Given your description that you give. So that's why I think that I don't need to do programming in 66. I want to create systems, artificial intelligence systems that will do programming for me when I will be 66.
Thank you. And do you have a big dream about becoming maybe a unicorn in artificial intelligence?
Yes, yes. I have a dream. I do have a dream. The major concern of a lot of people is whether artificial intelligence will be good or evil. Many people are scared that it will take their jobs, it will make human life poor and awful. So my dream is that general artificial intelligence, that's artificial intelligence that can do everything, not in just one field of science, but that's the one algorithm that can design for you, that can drive self-driving cars, that can do any work for you. That is called artificial general intelligence. I believe that it will come true in decades, and I want it to be good so that people will have less pain, will live longer, and will all have something to do that they like to do. So they will not do some job that is not interesting, that will make them feel unhappy. I want every person to be happy.
Thank you. And we have some questions from our audience. First, is it possible that in the future hybrid intelligence will be able to creatively solve a given problem, invent new solutions, in other words?
It's hard to answer this question in a couple of words, because the answer may be yes and it may be no. It's possible that artificial intelligence or hybrid intelligence will bring some new ideas. For example, I removed this slide from the from my presentation because it was very huge and I had to remove something. But you can Google artificial intelligence have drawn some brand new pictures that were not existed by human, but in fact had some original idea. But anyway, artificial intelligence has no common sense. It doesn't have any own goals. It has only goals that humans give him, and also it is always bounded within bounds that human have set. So it cannot go alive. It cannot go out of the box, as I mentioned before. So it's always inside the box, and how creative it will be is given by humans. So if we are smart enough to create an algorithm that could invent something new, I hope that it will create something new, but it will always be bounded by humans' desires.
And second questions. What techniques can make communication between humans and artificial intelligence more natural, lively, and comfortable for humans?
Mhm. There is also huge progress in this field, and I can mention two ideas. First is the idea of voice assistants. They are now spreading into the world. Alexa, Google, and Alice in Russia have sold a lot of stations with their voice assistants, but the problem is discovery. That is a huge problem that people now cannot solve. It means that people don't know what to do with them. So I also have Yandex Alice in my house, and when I ask Alice do something, it answers, I didn't understand what you say, please try to say it in other words. So people don't know the boundaries. They try to ask some questions, and when they get stuck having nothing in return, they just throw away this idea and ask Alice just to start timer for the food cooking. That's how I use Alice. 90% of my questions is please set a timer to 5 minutes. So that's my reality, and I hope that this problem will be beaten within several years, and GPT-3 algorithm is one of the ways to beat this. Also, there are inventions in brain-computer interfaces technologies. That's a technology that allows us to link brain of a human and artificial intelligence without any middle agents, just direct link. Elon Musk, that I have mentioned him a couple of times before, I mention him once again because his Neuralink company also shows great success, great progress in this field, and I think that is how the future will work. So every person now can be treated as a hybrid. Today, we don't have chips that are inside humans. Before Bill Gates have vaccinated all the world. I'm joking. I don't believe in it. But we all have mobile phones, and many people say that mobile phones are like chips inside humans. There's no difference. Our phones are parts of a human body now. If we find ourselves without phone, or for example, if it has uncharged, we lose ourselves. We don't know what to do. We don't remember anything. Now we don't have memory in brains. We have memory in phones, and every person nowadays can be named a hybrid. So that interfaces, bridges between human and computer are already exist. They just will become more comfortable for people.
Yeah.
By voice or by direct links.
Yeah. And our last question, I think, because our time is finishing. Does your program with letters recognition run on Mac operation system only?
No, it works everywhere. So you need to separate technology and research. So the research results are algorithms. These algorithms are not connected with some operational systems and other technologies. That is algorithm that works. It works everywhere. And another thing is the program that somewhere else. So research results work in every situation, and the program showing it now works on Mac and PC because it's a Java program. It's cross-platform, if you understand what I mean.
Yes. Anton, thank you for participation and for your great presentation. And now we finished with our conversation, and let's go to the next speaker.
Thank you.
And our next speaker, Yana Vavilova.
Hello. Do you hear me? Do you see me well?
Now yes. And Yana Vavilova, lead UX and UI designer in Dell Technologies. And she is born in St. Petersburg, lives and works in St. Petersburg and Moscow. And I think she presents to us very interesting position about her vision on design. Yeah, you can
yes, exactly.
You can start, yeah. Complex system design, yeah.
Yes, so I wanted to say thanks for organizers of this conference. I have graduated St. Petersburg State University, that's why I'm here, I suppose. And yes, the topic which I want to present is complex system design, because complex system is a paradigm which covers a lot of design paradigms and approaches, because it is very abstract term and topic, and can help in modeling and in managing with a lot of complex questions. So what is a complex system actually represent? It is a term which emerged from different sciences, from mathematics, from physics, from chemistry, and it is characterized by openness, by instability. It is changing, highly unstable, innovative, and that's why it is complicated to work with them, because in industrial century, in 20th century, mostly work engineers worked with linear, stable systems, which helped them to work with very linear and stable things like and hierarchy. So, and now designers have to focus not on the objects, but mostly on the connections, and mostly on how these nodes, how these objects are interdependent, interconnected, and how they influence on each other in multiple ways. And it is very hard to focus on them because they're always changing, autonomous, and dynamic. Because everyone uses smartphones, as the previous speaker told us already, and you discussed it, and there are a lot of disadvantages of these things, because we are not tearing our eyes in the physical world. That's why digital world and physical world are highly interdependent. And think about complex system as a social networks. It have a lot of connections, and it have multiple interdependencies, but without its users, it is nothing. That's why we have to focus ourselves, on users. And actually people and the world is starting to be more challenging, more sophisticated, because everyone likes challenges, and the society starts to be more challenging because people influence on that, and the services depend on them in both ways. So what I wanted to say, that it is a highly distributed system without no boundaries, but as Donald Norman said, that that's why we need to focus on our users. And user-centered design appeared on the place of object-oriented systems, which were created by Christopher Alexander in 1977 and this term was mostly applied to urban design, project design, and development. But now we have to focus more on our users, because we want to create already more, not only focus on our needs, but on more mental levels. So there are 3 books in the slide, which I highly recommend everyone to read, to understand whether the design goes and what is direction today of it. And the next slide, I say that the values of user-centered design include empathy, optimism, iteration, creative confidence, belief in making, and so on, because it is what we want to deliver to our users, to people. And that's why the centered question goes to how can we do it, how we want to deliver our values, and the core goals. That's why in the interface design, the most part goes to research today. There are loads of types of the researches, usability labs, ethnographic field studies, participatory design, focus groups, interviews, eye tracking, heat maps, and much more of them. But the core thing which we need to produce is communication. We are staying on the communication a lot of time. I have loads of interviews each day, and we are speaking and communicating a lot of time. We create personas which represent the core, how to say better, core features and core properties of our users, because we always try to focus on people and not on the project, because designers today need always to think about people for whom we are creating our projects. And this is the core goal for the designers, for product designers, for UX UI designers. Yes, so I said about it. And next, after communication, we create a lot of schemes, a lot of maps, journey maps, user maps, story maps, schemes, some kind of diagrams, because it starts to be, firstly, it is easier. Actually, it is not easier, but it is, we start to be able to deliver our goals and methods to creation, because on these very abstract forms, it is very complicated to create those connections and to engage the users into these projects, to engage real necessities, real needs, to think about their pain points and leverages. The second position, why we create those journeys, these maps, is because it is, in practical side, it is easier to communicate with project owners, stakeholders, clients, customers, and so on. Because we are not just developing beautiful pictures, but they are starting to be more stable, more sustainable, and user-oriented. That's why companies think of designers more, start to think more respectful. They respect the values, and yes, and it even reduces the cost impact. This is how other types of schemes look like, and there are dozens of them. Sometimes they include more emotional studies, sometimes on the functional flows, how the user goes from point A to point B, and how many time does it take. So what is next design method? It was created by no, it is my mistake. It is Brad Frost, Atomic Design by Brad Frost. He is a very respectful designer and researcher, and he created the paradigm of design, atomic design, in which reveals the structure of human body on the whole biological scheme. He said that we shouldn't focus only on micro level or on the macro level, micro and macro, or on local and global, because we should always remember about the product to know how it will work and interact with our users. This is how style guides and complex design systems emerged. One of the first such design systems was created by Google. They created material design, and as you can see, it consists of small elements which start to build more bigger components, and then they create the whole design philosophy and language with guides to how write the texts and which voice even should be inserted in the design, how all the movements are realized, how it is the whole language, it is the whole philosophy, the voice, how the user touches on the screen. This is why, as I said, that UX designer has to interact very precisely with digital and with the material world, with digital and with physical world. It is where computer meets the reality, and this is how we should think about more sustainable development in more like small things build global things, in how design works with the whole universe and how it influences on the physical world. So what can I add from myself? Is also certainly the digital world develops with very fast steps, and it even communicates with the sustainable design paradigms. That's why web design starts to contribute with with the statements of sustainable positions, because optimization and performance influence a lot on how the power uses and how it influences on nature and on our health. So I believe that small steps influence on the global world, and I believe that all designers should think about our future. And I suppose this is the end of my story.
Again, I tried these questions. Jana, what do you feel about design?
So, as I have said already, that I feel, firstly, I feel that deeper I dive into it, I understand how it influences all the spheres of the world, of our living, how I starting to be more like engaged in all the processes and all the spheres. Actually, what I especially love about the design is that we have an opportunity to live or to place ourselves on the minds of people in different spheres, absolutely. And that's why we can influence absolutely in different spheres of life and do our and enhance them, enlarge them, enrich them, and make them better. So what I feel my influence and opportunity to
change the
yes.
world.
Yeah. Huh?
To change world.
To change world. Yeah. it sounds very pathetic, but anyway.
Yeah. And thank you so much for your smart and elegant presentation. And if I got your idea, are you going to spend more time on research? Yeah. How can I explain this?
Actually, it is my message. I hope that I hope that those who will see this presentation and conference later or now will think about not about only the visibility of the design, because still a lot of people think design as only a beautiful picture, but it is much more, because when we meet with our clients, with our customers, they really have a value, they have goals, and it is a mission of the design to understand real values and think about the sustainability in it, and yes, and focus on the much global things, not on the picture. Yeah. I can say a lot about the styles, about how to create small elements, but it is the design is much more than it. And yes.
Thank you.
We can influence.
Would you like to edit something? Oh.
If you have some questions.
Okay. Everything starts with the customer development. Yeah, I got an idea. And what would you like to study when we talk about design or creative technology? Yes.
Like you mean in all, or in our country, or in
all
universities?
In all.
In all. I think that And this is actually the trend today, and I hope that this trend will be supported by designers, and think about their humanitarian mission, about healthcare, more about innovations, and it is on a local level, and as I said, on different types of levels, and not because of charity mission or volunteering mission, but in but think about the innovation, how through the innovation we can bring some positive influence.
And what schools of interactive design does Russia need?
Let me think, what schools?
Yeah, what schools of interactive design we need in Russia?
It is hard to answer because actually we have schools. Maybe there should be more of it, and maybe we should be more involved and interested in them, because we have a lot of good specialities, and really Russia is very very powerful in it and very strong in it. But still everything stays on each one desire and wish of what to take from those professionals, specialities.
Yeah, specialties. Yeah.
Yes, so we can take all of it if we have wish, if we have desire, and if we think about it in those concepts.
Yeah. And thank you for your participation. And thank you so much for your presentation. I think we need to move on to our coffee break. And now our great guys from our organizational committee put on our screen and special, how do you say, special letters about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yana. Bye. Okay. Hi, everyone. We continue our warm, interesting conversation about vertical and horizontal design and interaction. And our break is over, and we continue to look through design and try to understand what new and interesting approach possible in Russia, in world, everywhere. And our next speaker, very interesting person. You know, all our speakers are very interesting persons, but every speaker has own idea. And I am sure that Igor Kraft, is an interdisciplinary artist and researcher born in Leningrad, lives and works in Moscow and Berlin. Tell us very interesting stories about how use interdisciplinary art, digital art, in a new way, new approach. If you are ready, we can start. Yes. Okay, great.
I am.
Let's start.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me to this conference. It's a pleasure to be part of the conference, which is organized by a head university, a leading university in my hometown, which is something I haven't been ever doing so far. So it's a big pleasure. Since we don't have this much time, I guess, I will just jump into my presentation and start sharing my screen with you. Yeah. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So as it was introduced, my field of research and work is primarily to do with artistic space and arts rather than design practices. Although I do come from a design background, so to say, and I would say I still use a lot of the methodology and a lot of the tools that are being usually used in kind of design-related practices. Although my interest is much more about not how to do things, but why do we, do things in one or another way. And I will just briefly introduce myself because I'm not sure if I'm familiar to attendees of this conference, because my field of operation most of the years lays outside of St. Petersburg, and I'm not very much involved in the local scene, I would say, apart from being represented by a gallery in St. Petersburg and having had a solo show, which was I think about 2 years ago. Apart from that, I'm not really so much active on the local scene. So I will just tell a little bit about things that I've been doing, like very briefly, and then jump into the the main topic of my report today, which is research around using AI and machine learning technologies to facilitate kind of speculative kind of investigations into historical documents, and also what are the sort of consequences of such actions, and what are the potential sort of misleading strategies does it provide, and kind of trying to look into it critically by the means of a few case study examples that are actually my practice, but also sort of a subject of my research and writing. So yeah, like I said, just a few words on my previous practice and my previous work. I think maybe I'm mostly well known for the work that is called the New Color, which has been initiated as a kind of online intervention, or like online sort of online myth, I would say, like a digital myth about the existence of undiscovered previously, but brand new color. And it started with me creating a website of an American company that supposedly exists in Pennsylvania, although this company does not really exist. And on their websites, they present their incredible discovery, which actually is the brand new color that no one has ever seen before. And in order to that's like a beautifully designed website, and it features the story of its invention, but unfortunately there is no way to show the color itself by the means of the screen, for one simple reason: the RGB sensors and the RGB displays are not capable of displaying colors like this, because it's a brand new color and has nothing to do with RGB. And that's why it is rather presented by testimonials of people who have been supposedly seen this color. I'm not going to play you a video. Usually in my longer talk, I do show a lot of video materials. I will just briefly and quickly scroll through slides. But I think what was really interesting about this this new color intervention was that it eventually it actually became something that we call today as fake news or post-truth kind of realm, in which the the audience of of the visitors of the website actually took it seriously and kept emailing me for years. Actually, the project is very long lasting, and I started it in 2012, and ever since I launched the website and the video and this advertising materials of this never existent color, I have received about 2,000 emails that have become a part of the publication, that have been published in the book. Again, quickly going through my work and through my projects, there is a piece that's called "I Print, Therefore I Am." Didn't really intend to play this video now, but never mind. So there is a work in which I used sort of an industrial printer that you can see on this image here, on the image of the image actually. So I used this industrial printer in order to create this sort of kinetic installation during Manifesta Biennial in St. Petersburg at the curated show at the Museum of Prints, which consisted of a printer that had like a looped back sheet of paper inside of it that was printed for the duration of the show, and the printer itself was modified in such way that the sheet of paper was basically circulating within the printer machine, and it would the sensor that would normally detect the end of the edge of the paper was removed from the printer, and so that it was continuously printing on a single sheet of paper, and it was printing one line of text, which was "I print, therefore I am," which eventually turned into this sort of barcode type of image of this overlapping and overlapping and overlapping of this one line of text being printed. And obviously the line of text is taken from "I think, therefore I am," René Descartes' renowned and famous quote. Another intervention that I have that I would like to introduce you to is the work that is called the URL Stone, and that work was initially produced in St. Petersburg and have been part of several exhibitions. But the idea of the work was to it started with me finding a marble block that you can see on the right side of the screen, and craving a link. Just leaves an image file of this very marble, of this very image that actually can see on the right side of the screen, that has been uploaded onto Wikimedia Commons, or just a Wikipedia storage file platform, if you like. And the whole idea was to kind of, which you can see the process of uploading it into Wikipedia, you can see on the left side of the screen right now. And the whole idea was to kind of juxtapose the, this two very different kind of mediums that supposedly, contain the same message, like a very archaic way of preserving knowledge, or like a very archaic medium such as the URL stone, like a block of marble, or a text carved into stone, and a JPEG file, which has been uploaded onto a certain server. And the whole idea of this kind of intervention in the project was to kind of look into which of these mediums is going to last longer, right? So the project is not complete until one of them ceases to exist, until one of them eventually gone, and there's no traces left of, or maybe traces are left, but it's kind of gone and unfunctional anymore, like a broken link, or or perhaps like a broken stone, or like bits of the broken previously a marble plaque. Here's an image of this work being presented at Ars Electronica Festival in Austria, in Linz, which is probably a well-known sort of platform for media arts, for like exposing the media art. And I'm, by the way, I don't know if it has been mentioned before, but I am right now in Austria, in Vienna, where I spend most of my time right now during this interesting and weird times of pandemic. But during normal times, or what we previously used to call normal times, maybe quarter of my time between sharing it between Berlin, Moscow, and St. Petersburg. I have, over the last 5 years, I have been also engaged in collaborations with the blockchain community, and in particular Ethereum Foundation community, a project that is called Swarm, which is kind of like a huge platform for huge platform that's it's like it's so huge. Perhaps it's a technical solution for providing sort of distributed, decentralized storage, file storage, in that way that is completely serverless, that operates in such way that like every file that is being uploaded to this Swarm decentralized system based on Ethereum blockchain, that the file gets distributed into tiny chunks of data and spread across the network, to then be downloaded on the end user sites from these chunks of data. But these chunks of data are distributed across the computers of the users of the network, or nodes, if you like we call them in the blockchain sort of space terminology, which potentially leads to this very new ways of storing data across the internet, in which we don't rely anymore on centralized authorities or centralized servers like Amazon servers, for example. But instead, we kind of provide this internet that is truly decentralized, or perhaps the internet that we actually wanted to see, when we came up with the internet. I work with them as a consultant and artistic director, and also we produce some kind of artistic interventions. I will just jump into one of them. One of these artistic interventions which was my work that was produced for the Museum of Contemporary Art in Valletta, which is the capital of Malta, a country a very tiny country in Europe, which was done in collaboration with this community of developers and Ethereum Foundation people, in order to provide sort of this kind of speculative idea into future of legislation on the internet, or like this future sort of future way of decision making on how is it that we can rewrite the constitution for how we want internet to be, but how can we do it all together? I will not go so much into the details, but I hope this kind of gives you a bit more of the context of my current research practice and interest. This is the work. This is another work which has been done during my research project and studies at Strelka Institute in Moscow, which was my last kind of point of academic involvement. That was a speculative film, or perhaps a 5-channel video installation, because I would usually show it via the means of multiple screens as opposed to a single channel screening. To the work was looking into this potential narratives, speculative narratives of near future where political apparatus has been outsourced to AI, to artificial intelligence, in which we don't have, and this, the kind of the narrative takes place in Moscow, where Kremlin is not a Kremlin anymore, is not more a political institution, but it's just an empty space, because the governing of that particular region has been largely outsourced to AI, in such way that everyone takes place in this kind of decision-making process, that kind of speculating on the idea of what we call a parametric democracy, in which you can sort of poll and vote for whatever decisions in real time, and they are being sent to this kind of centralized AI cloud system, which kind of implements this decision in real time, also via sort of highly automated infrastructure. Very speculative, and both utopian and dystopian. And so, yeah, and just before I start actually showing my main kind of research project now, I just want to show one other one, maybe a bit more in details, because this is very closely related, and this is also a work that I have been doing with artificial intelligence, along with my longtime collaborator and kind of research colleague, Artem Kanevsky, who I'm very happy to mention. He's a developer, and he was also a research fellow at Strelka Institute along with me in Moscow. So this is the work that I have been showing at Hermitage Museum perhaps about a year ago at the exhibition where the exhibition that was dedicated to AI. The exhibition was centered around AI and artificial intelligence, and perhaps perhaps if some of the attendees of this conference have seen this show, they might have recognized that during one of the previous presentations here, there was mentioned a work, an artwork, which was a painting that was sold somewhere in Christie's or some kind of auction for enormous amount of money that was generated by AI. This very work was present at this show. So the show was around AI, and I did this commissioned work for this show, which is called The Chinese Ink. And the idea behind this work was to train artificial intelligence system, in particular GAN, General Adversarial Network, to operate on a data set that consisted of thousands of Chinese ink blots, to sort of to teach it to generate Chinese ink plots indefinitely and continuously, and kind of in all of their new variations. And in order to kind of present this piece here, you can see a screen and also a fragment of this computer, a server that was part of the show, which you can maybe see more in full here on the right-hand side of this picture. But at the center of this picture, you see the actually something that maybe looks more like a traditional kind of graphic that was presented in a kind of very typical way of presenting it in a museum or a white cube kind of space. Actually, these are the e-ink screens or electronic ink screens that are framed in this kind of very traditional way, but they do play videos, and they do output in real time what is it that AI generates in real time, basically being just next to it. So the server generates and sends signal and sends the outputs onto this electronic ink screens, which replicate the Chinese inks, which is sort of, all of this kind of simulates a very beautiful, I would say, and like kind of incredible technique of Chinese ink, but seen through the lens of this kind of very contemporary technologies, in which we use this automated technologies of artificial intelligence to generate them, but we also use this kind of very advanced high resolution ink screens that are finally capable of playing videos, for which we actually had to write a little software. I'm going to show you a work that documents it. A video. Whoops. I'm not sure if I'm able to play this video right now. Actually, this happened to me before with this presentation. But it doesn't really matter because I would really like to switch to switch now to and to leave a bit more time in this presentation for kind of the main subject of my report today, which is excuse me. Oh yeah, that's a different video. Yeah, which is called the content-aware studies, or the project in which I work with in collaboration with a few research fellows at the University of Southampton in the UK, but also Strelka Institute in Moscow. Over the course of like last 3-4 years, we have been engaged in this research project, but also kind of artistic project and a subject of writing, and also a film that I'm currently working on, which is called the content-aware studies, and it's it's centered around the ideas of sort of trying to use machine learning technologies or machine learning techniques to restore, I would say, to look into and kind of restore and analyze historical documents. But as a main case study, we took, the first phase of this research project was for this first page, we took a subject of classical antiquity as something that is like really well known for us as humans and kind of very well familiar to our eyes. I would say too familiar, right? Almost like painfully familiar. We know it very, especially us, maybe those who are from St. Petersburg, because St. Petersburg is also largely populated with sort of further implementations of this aesthetics. And the idea was to kind of try first we started with the idea of like, what is it that if we take AI and try to restore all these missing fragments within the sculptures of classical antiquity, just basically fill these missing gaps and kind of ask AI to generate what should there be, instead of this missing fragments. And I would say, it brought us to kind of very interesting results, which I'm happy to show you just in a second from now. But before I jump into showing you kind of outcomes of our research and our practice, I would just like to share a little bit of the background behind the project, and or like a few kind of stories that I find particularly interesting. And one of them dates back to the 16th century. And it is and it involves this very well-known sculpture of Laocoon and his sons. And here you probably all familiar with this work, that you can see the original of this work you can see in Vatican, but you can also see a lot of plaster casts in world-renowned museum collections like Louvre and etc. And so here you can see two versions of the same sculpture, and and they don't look like one is complete. They do actually look different, and the reason being is that the version that you can see on the left side of the screen is the one that is probably the most popular version of the sculpture, the one that you would have in the collection of Louvre, the plaster cast, of course, not the original. But it came about with this like really interesting story. I find that it was, I think it happened in the 1510. The Pope and the Pope's architect in Vatican, they didn't like that the sculpture was incomplete, that it had missing fragments and parts, and they were really keen on kind of running a contest of restoring the sculpture and finding the best potential sculptor, in Rome at the time, to refill the missing gaps of it, to restore it, and it was really interesting because at the time, both Michelangelo and Raphael, they were present. They were of different age, but they both were around. And they've been involved in this case as well, and they had very different ideas. Michelangelo always thought that the missing arm of the Laocoon sculpture has to be bent like this, perhaps like what you can see on the right hand side of the screen. Whereas Raphael was pretty sure that the arm should be outstretched like so, right? That you see on the left side of the screen. And so Raphael was asked to be a judge in the contests, and he asked his students and all the young and ambitious sculptors that were active at the time in Rome, and to came up with the restoration of the sculpture, and they came up with it, and they came up with this result that you can see on the left, which Raphael accepted. And so, and then fast forward 4 centuries, in 1906, an archaeologist called Ludwik Polak, who was a Polish archaeologist, basically discovered this, what you can see on this picture here, in just one of the old courtyards of Roman courtyards, one of the sculptor's atelier. And he immediately thought that is a Laocoon's arm. Actually, I don't know how. It's probably not many machine learning systems would be capable of such such quick and such kind of precise assumption, but he was able to. And when they tried it, when they brought it, when they made an expertise, they realized that there actually is a fragment of Laocoon arm, and like an original one. And as you can see here, it is bent, right? And then we go back to this picture, and then we see this kind of the version on the right. This was eventually a result of dismantling everything that was added at the time when Raphael curated this process, and kind of putting back the lost fragments, and actually realizing that Michelangelo was right all of this time. That Michelangelo was more right about sculpture than Raphael was. Let me now jump into a different story, which I find equally fascinating and perhaps more more important for what I'm going to talk about further. This is quite a recent story, and the story is about AI and about the Voynich manuscript. Voynich manuscript is this book, which you can pages of which you can see on the screen. It is a book that was discovered in 1912 by a Polish book dealer called Voynich, hence the name Voynich manuscript. And this book contains botanical drawings, sort of weird naked female figures, and a lot of scripts, a lot of writing. And what's perhaps most interesting about it is that up to now, there is no official version of what language is it written in, and obviously what exactly does the script say. People that were working on Rosetta Stone were engaged in research and were engaged in kind of trying to decipher the Voynich manuscript, but their research didn't bring any result. There was, obviously it became a subject of speculation and conspiracy theories about I'm just seeing a message that I need to wrap up, so I will try to. Okay, so nevertheless, so when computer scientists try to decode and decipher the Voynich manuscript by the means of AI, they claim that they've managed to do it quite accurately and precisely, but historians from the same university but from a different kind of historical departments claim that these interpretations are absolutely wrong and have nothing to do with reality. And hence, we kind of facing this kind of interesting question as to should we trust AI historical investigations like this, and what kind of agency does it hold for potential historical investigations? So these are sort of the kind of the background to the projects, which, like I said, I have been involved with, that is trying to kind of use AI to speculatively restore missing fragments of the sculptures of classical antiquity, and but also kind of not so much trying to kind of actually restore them, but seeing how does it go wrong and what are the aesthetic outcomes of such attempts. And I will just show maybe 2-3 pictures because we don't have much time really. And here is one of them, maybe that is one of the kind of the best ones to describe what kind of results do I usually get with kind of doing such experiments. You see where on the sculpture, the marble part represents the original sculpture. It has been machine fabricated in real marble, but the white fragment is 3D printed in polyamide or nylon, they call it, just a 3D printing synthetic material that represents the AI restorations of the sculpture, and we see what kind of glitch does it produce. Sometimes, though, it produces very accurate results, like, for example, as we can see here, where the largest part of the fragment or the largest part of the face has been quite accurately reconstructed. But there is still some glitch on the top, right? Because it doesn't really know where to produce cracks or where to not produce them. This is also an interesting example where the front of the sculpture has been, or the bottom of the sculpture at the front has been reconstructed quite accurately, but on the back of it, you see AI attempted to kind of implement another face, or it decided for some reason to place it in there. There's a lot more, really. There's friezes and sculptures, and I would like to welcome you to visit my website and and maybe Vimeo, where you can see films and videos and more documentation of this work if you're interested. But since we are very short on time, I'm just going to wrap it up and open for questions, I guess.
Dear colleagues.
I do have. Let me know if you guys do.
Yes, maybe what role can design play in the humanization of virtual communication?
What role can design play in
humanization communication? In the humanization, yeah.
In the humanization.
Yeah.
I would say, I think design is a human-centric practice, just providedly, isn't it? It's like it's this.
Absolutely.
It's what we do for us to design things to be convenient for us to be used. I think, to be honest, I'm much more interested in like what is it that it can do to not be a human-centric practice, and what would not human-centric kind of design would look like. But I think it can do a lot, right? I mean, we've designed a lot of things. We've designed our language, we've designed our cities, we've designed infrastructure, we've designed this kind of weird political systems in which we live, and this kind of weird and strange economies, and now we are sort of heading towards the collapse of the, perhaps some sort of collapse of the actual world, or like the kind of this climate change disaster that we are about to face. And now we perhaps need to redesign things to kind of figure this out. Yeah, but I think it can do a lot. To be honest, I'm just much more interested in what it cannot do rather than do, if that makes sense.
And after your work with blockchain community, maybe you have some idea about, for example, how we could better coordinate actions within professional communities. I think it's a big problem in Russia, for example.
How can we better coordinate cooperation?
Yeah, better coordinate cooperations.
Between whom and whom? Between professional communities of various fields, you mean? Between like professional communities in,
for example, for
interdisciplinary
fields.
Yeah. Well, perhaps with running more often conferences like we do,
Okay.
you know, and like inviting more people to be part of them.
Yes, I think about it, and that's all. No idea.
Just having more conversation,
Having
I mean, obviously, academically, we could perhaps find ways to kind of to engage more in to try and like kind of like make that more cross-disciplinary in terms of like running academic interventions where people of different backgrounds would meet. You know, for me, for example, Strelka Institute was a very eye-opening experience in many ways, because I was, as an artist, I came there to study with people of completely different backgrounds that I actually had to learn and find ways to collaborate together with. I think that probably was very helpful for me going cross-disciplinary, if you like. And perhaps this could help others too.
And what is your favorite way to do digital and art interaction?
A favorite way is to, perhaps to research first and to understand why is it that I want to do it. But sometimes I do it the other way around, where I actually do something and then figure out what is it that I have done. But definitely research. You know, at the beginning or at the end of the initiative.
Yeah. And thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, for your participation, and we need to move on to our next speaker. Yeah. Thank you, Igor. See you.
Thank
later.
you. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Our next speaker, Lucy Hardcastle. Lucy, hi.
Hi.
Happy to see you.
Lovely to see you. Thank you
yeah.
for having me.
Lucy Hardcastle is a London-based interdisciplinary designer and digital artist. Her work focuses on tactility, visual illusions, and sensual aesthetic thought, digital retended pieces, sculpture, set design, and moved image. And Lucy, you can start your presentation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you everyone who has logged in to be part of this amazing conference. As you already know, my name is Lucy Hardcastle. I describe myself as a digital artist and the director of my creative studio. So our studio's practice is generally described as sensual storytelling for the digital age, and is visually driven, it's interdisciplinary, and we provide insight, direction, and production for a range of clients from various industries such as fashion, beauty, automotive, and healthcare sectors. And we aim to investigate the tensions between digital and physical worlds, creating groundbreaking experiences and content through 3D motion, moving and still image, interactive technologies, objects, and spaces. And our intention is to explore virtual and material forms of visual communication through principles of sensuous innovation in order to create a human-focused design language intended for our digital future. And we believe that innovation within technological design doesn't solely come from the new, but also from a realignment or reapplication of pre-existing tools and knowledge. And our aim is to really investigate those tensions between the digital and physical world. So creating experiences that subscribe to a radical use of the senses by challenging them through design in order to create these kind of emotive and transformative responses from the viewer by a means of complex narratives and immersive forms of storytelling. And our clients work with us in a combination of ways. And that includes motion design, ranging from 3D animation to live action films. There's also alternative realities that involve AR and VR or are web-based, and also interactive spaces and installations. So to give you a bit of a background on how I got to this point in my work, I've always seen myself as a maker as well as a visual communicator, which aligns with my background of originally studying textiles. So I really saw those materials as a medium that provided movement and versatility and had just a lot of potential to them. So the key lessons that I drew from that experience wasn't just only about developing something interdisciplinary, but also about creating a lifelong journey of forming connections between multiple senses, which started with sight and touch. And then as I started to discover the capabilities of digital softwares and the multitudes of realities that the work could exist within, creating with my bare hands became just as important as working with a computer. And it kind of became this contrasting method to investigate my work with by contemplating the struggle that technology and handmade craft have with one another and figuring out how could they work in unison together. And I think this triggered those primary questions that you immediately consider when you see my work, such as, is it real or is it rendered or digital? And kind of questioning, when will that no longer matter? And when will all those kind of realms become blended together? And as we've progressed as a studio, we've been founded for 4 years now. We have obviously a whole range of skills and outcomes that we work towards, but it really led me to having a team and creating projects that were, had a big vision that was beyond just myself, and therefore it made sense to take more of a director role and more of a kind of overseeing role and having a team behind me to make everything possible. And then earlier this year, we developed a studio rebrand where we kind of used the period of isolation to have a moment of reset and renewal, where we really considered how we've evolved over those 4 years. So the core concept behind the rebrand was thinking about the importance of human presence and looking at ways to represent how we involve the human experience into our practice, as well as making sure that our audience felt connected to our process. And this became an opportunity to reignite what our work represents through updated themes of design, which exist similarly to a manifesto. And some of these I'll be talking through today, along with several projects that we're really proud of. So one of our most recent self-initiated projects that represents our studio theme of poetic data visualization, as well as a focus on human interaction, is Wetlands. And Wetlands is an interactive ecosystem that poetically visualizes living data and user interactions. And the piece acts as a digital self-portrait, providing a portal to the self through the use of biometric data. So this was developed in consultation with specialists in the field of neuroscience, and we chose to use my own sensitivity to materials as an area of exploration and data extraction. So we created a visualized algorithm that was intended to kind of feel as living and breathing as myself. And then a wearable headset was used to track the electrical activity within my brain, as well as the heart rate and breath rate, during stimulating experiences with different materials while being in a meditative state. And then this data was turned into a whole range of graphs and cross-sections that were then translated into a 3D landscape that was a spectrum of color and wave movement that kind of creates almost a 3D graph, in a sense, of my own responses. And I really wanted to use wetlands as a way to make biometric data feel performative and meaningful, almost like creating a digital twin. So by combining these neurological responses to material tactility and the user's own interactions on the site, the project creates this unique digital landscape that constantly shifts in color and form as these two data sources intersect. And for the user journey, which was something that was really important to us, for the user, once you land in the kind of endless landscape, you then have a 360-degree navigation, and then playing with the different pools within the space. You are able to spread the landed colored particles and disperse color and trigger this kind of wave motion that correlates to the data. So you're able to create mini ecosystems or tides within themselves. And then the more the user plays with these pools, the more that they spread and melt the landscape and create this flooded effect for the period that the user is on the page. So the outcome is a digital landscape that acts as an ecosystem that is in a constant state of change between the data that we provided and then the individual user's output. And we believe in creating transformative moments in both physical and digital spaces where the user journey is considered from the initial development stages, with an intended income that is as much influenced by the user's involvement as it is through our design. So we describe this as user-led experiences, which is what we aim to do with this project. And you can go and play with it yourself on the landing page of my website. And our first exploration into this kind of thinking was Intangible Matter, which is the project that we're probably best known for and is what we launched with the studio with, that was commissioned by Chanel and ID magazine. So I was asked to make a personal response to scent within a digital space that could be globally accessible. And I chose to create a piece where people could build upon their own memories and relationships with fragrance through responsive visuals. So I directed and designed an interactive online experience, which was essentially an interactive website that consisted of different areas to explore the physical and virtual elements of fragrance. And this project was very much about using technology to make the invisible become visible, and a collaboration with multiple disciplines, including programmers. And I think what was really exciting about this brief was that scent is one of those senses that you can't see, but I think can be the most potent in terms of memory and transporting a user. So it was really an interesting challenge to try and visualize that. And based on the brief, I broke down each space within this interactive website to represent either a physical process of fragrance or an emotive concept of self-discovery. So the research was divided, meaning that one part of the concept was grounded in factual research and the other part was more about artistic license and making something that felt poetic. And I worked with the production company Stink Studios for this piece, alongside a group of programmers, and I chose to create an online space by combining my Cinema 4D software skills with WebGL, which is a type of coding for the web that uses your computer's graphics card, along with sound design, which I also directed and made the project essentially as immersive as possible without it being VR. So the aim was to really push the potential of this technology and increase the parameters of what felt real or the augmentation around it. And for the sound design of each room, there was a kind of base environmental sound, and then there were also sound bites for each object and interaction. So this was something that I took from doing research around video games and thinking about the fact that even in real life, we never fully hear silence. So if you want to create something that feels truly immersive, then it's really important to kind of set up an environment in both the audio and visual aspects. And I think what I took from this project was learning how to make something as interactively intuitive as possible within a framework of boundaries and creating a narrative in a digital space. And I would say this project really helped me build on a key part of my research, which is the idea of reapplying or repositioning technology or skills that already exist and finding ways to really push the potential of that. And then following on from web-based illusions, as you will, I've always been really inspired by the idea of perception and multiple realities that could exist in unison together, which I think is what originally drew me to digital design. And I think finding a balance between the digital and physical within my work really creates the opportunities for these kinds of multifaceted ideas. So as a studio, we've become known for our methodology in combining the digital and physical. And we intend to kind of continually challenge our audience's definition and perception of reality and playing with, what's real versus what's rendered. And we've coined this theme as suspended realities and physical illusions. So a project that perfectly represents this, that launched last year, which was our first commissioned AR project as a studio, was The Mirage. So The Mirage was a multi-room installation involving both physical and virtual elements that was commissioned by 29 Rooms, which is a part of Refinery 29, and was also in collaboration with Spark AR for Facebook. And this project was on tour in Los Angeles and New York in November and December. So as an overarching theme for the concept, we chose to focus on the Mirage's origins of natural phenomena, creating visual illusions and multiple dimensions. So at the beginning of the creative process, we were loosely inspired by the concept of animism, the idea that all objects are alive and possess symbolic powers that could conjure up spirits representing a story or fable within themselves. So since we knew that there would be multiple rooms as well as multiple formats to cover, it made sense to develop fully formed characters that could then be pieced together for the user in stages in order to create a narrative that ran through the entire space. So we created 4 characters that we described as totems or artifacts that were used as the focal elements and instigators within the space that were interpreted across different mediums. Each character represented a specific idea or emotion or physical form that covered themes within optical illusions such as light, nature, form, and texture. And they were designed with the intention to have their own visual properties and inherent behaviors. And I think the joy of this approach is that we were able to individually dissect these characters in the spaces, which started off as an image target or a sculpture and then became an AR moment to finish. And then we had the finale of the final space where there were lots of really interactive AR triggering installations. So to give you some character examples of this, this is the mood board for the character called Mimicry, which was inspired by biomimicry and patterns of camouflage that exist within nature and kind of act as organic mirages representing renewal and metamorphosis. And we use these shapes based on insects or arthropods, which have they're these creatures that have evolved to appear to be really delicate kind of organisms in the plant world, but they also catch prey and exist through the idea of illusion and looking like a plant. So examples being a praying mantis or an orchid mantis. So here's an example of one of the sketches that I did. So we have an early sketch on the left here, and then on the right we have the final AR outcome. So you can kind of see how we started off with something 2D and ended up with something 3D that had to work within the boundaries of the AR. And another character example is Alchemy. So this is the mood board for that character. And this was inspired by atmospheric changes in states going from solid to liquid, specifically thinking about the illusion of water caused by reflection, also known as an oasis. So here we witness it kind of shifting from different states, going from liquid to mirror or mercury. And these were some digital tests that we did as part of the research and development for this project. And then this is showing how the piece worked. So the AR activations are triggered by visual targets. Some of them are visible, some are hidden, and then some are unexpected. So the key innovation that really happened with this project came from how we developed these image targets that then trigger the AR filters. So these really felt like the new wave of QR codes, as they followed the same rules and required a certain amount of detail and variation in order to become scannable images, which was possible within AR, but hadn't yet been done on an AR software platform such as Spark AR, which we used, which is the software that is used for Facebook filters and Instagram filters. So we were kind of able to access this new potential thanks to the collaboration. And then an example of hidden targets would be this mural piece, which was a really kind of time-intensive piece that we worked on, which was a combination of projected animation around the sides and then a printed collage in the center that we aligned together to create a kind of imagery placement that acted as a target while still having moving elements to it. So you had the animation around the sides, and then in the center, you could stand by the piece and scan your phone, and it would reveal this AR animation and character. And the scale of that was around 30 feet by 15 feet, so it was huge. And we developed the printed parts first. And that was really fun to work on because it gave us an opportunity to develop the mimicry character that was shown earlier and was originally inspired by praying mantis and insects. So yeah, it was really fun to play with this idea of these insects emerging from these cocoons. So overall, I feel that in the past year, we have truly kind of changed the importance and usefulness of digital spaces. And I think we're now in an era where our existence feels relative and our time can often feel linear. And I think that leads us to feel more drawn to the immortality of a virtual existence as our main connection to our communities and networks. I think also in contrast to people being more drawn to digital spaces, we're also becoming more appreciative of the physicality within our lives. When you consider, you know, feeling touch deprived from isolation, and we then search for being able to spend more time in nature and in our homes. So I think this kind of upholds a great deal of my research and design argument that we still have a long way to go between the technology that we currently use, such as flat screens or devices, and the need for varied touch combined with other senses that we crave as humans as a kind of enrichment within our lives. And I really think that the way to humanize technology is to be much more considerate of who that end user is, which, you know, is us. But I feel like a lot of the time tech is not designed with us in mind necessarily. Yeah, and that is my talk. So thank you so much for having me, and hopefully there's some exciting questions.
Lucy, thank you so much for your inspirational presentation and for your participation in our conference. Yes, we have some questions, and maybe we start with where is the border, maybe line between digital and physical world, or maybe physical and digital reality?
I mean, I feel like there is less of a line than ever, and things are becoming even more blurred. I suppose you could argue that the physical is anything that you can directly touch and is within your existence in terms of things that you can physically interact with, whereas anything digital and virtual could be, you know, something that's on your device. It could be something that is projected as a hologram even. So I feel like those worlds are becoming just more and more blended.
Okay, thank you. And you have great experience with your new kind of exhibition. What do you think? What is more important, the physical part of the exhibition or interactive one?
For me, it's all about the interaction and the user journey, and creating maybe an exhibition space where people feel that their interaction has contributed to the outcome, and they really feel like a participant instead of someone that is just passive and maybe visiting an exhibition. So for me, it's all about having something interactive that doesn't have too many props or tools within it, and it's more about having the viewer respond in a really independent way rather than being asked to do a whole set of tasks.
Yes, thank you. And what do you say? Is it possible to develop maybe new human abilities or characteristics in the view through the implementation of intensive technologies in design?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one area that I've been researching is the concept of phantom limbs and phantom pain, and thinking about maybe people who have had medical issues or have lost, say, their hand, for example, and we've used tech to create new parts of their body that are able to do things that maybe their original hand wasn't able to. So in that sense, I think there's a whole range of options when it comes to, you know, heightening what we see as the normal human experience through design and also through biomimicry.
Great. So we can say that we move on to maybe transition of human feelings or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Now we finished. I think our time is over. And if I'm not mistaken, we have a new guest in our list. Yes. And I would like to introduce you to Eija Salmi, Cumulus Secretary General from Aalto University, School of Arts, Design and Architecture, Finland.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hope you all have enjoyed the great days. And the best day, of course, is always the last day. Well done. Thanks for all friends, all participants, speakers, organizers, anybody that have popped in and followed us also today. I have to say, what an awesome getting together today. 30, 10, 20, nice numbers to remember forever. And around interaction. And I have to say, for me, interaction is collaboration beyond any obstacles on this planet, and I guess in the space as well. And it's all of you. I mean, this is sort of boring standard speech I'm holding, but I can't avoid saying so. And it's Cumulus family, and I hope I sincerely wish that you are all part of it. And then I have to rehearse. I'm saying this quite often, that human potential is enormous. Future human creativity and interaction potential, they are enormous. It's part of human potential. Our Cumulus remembers universities, Higher School of Education in Moscow, St. Petersburg Polytechnic University, and today's host, St. Petersburg University. You all have aligned so fantastically together and created a stage that serves creativity done, executed by education and research, and not limited to only that we are among ourselves siloed, but we have been inviting businesses, industry, environment, including government, NGOs, etc., even a citizen in a street to further accelerate not only understanding, but also how we use art, design, and media, and the knowledge created by all of us educators and researchers, respecting that there are best, but there are also worst practices. Thanks to Russia, we've been able to do that over the 3 days. Today and the 2 previous days are more than a beautiful prelude. Keep that in your mind, put that in your calendar. The conference taking place hosted by these 3 during the first part of 2022. Easy number to remember. It will be a real Cumulus conference. Don't ask me what that might be meaning, but it's a bit different. It's more given by our Russian colleagues and all of you together. Design vertical and horizontal, I trust it's a concept having ability to embrace the existing and advance development. And we all have learned a lot today and the 2 days before, and continue working towards 22 together. So I hope you guys, you keep together and we can be sharing the contact information, etc., and ask us at the Cumulus Secretary. I have to say also hurrah Russia, because this is first ever online design conference in your country. Mamma mia, well done. You all organizers, you are honestly diamonds. I have to thank you. And it has been more fantastic to support from the point of view of us at the Cumulus Secretariat in Finland, and hosted by our great supporter, Aalto University, that once was founding member of the association. You are guys genius, and I have to say, me and my colleague Anna, we have here learned a lot, as well as our board that has been supporting our work. It's been genuine match between all of us. In 2022, we also continue a bit on online format, but it's necessary to human DNA that we get face to face. And then a great possibility to experience the country also from the point of the sport being there physically. Avatars, I don't know, are we then there, but anyway, whatever. You might have been creating such ones over these 3 days. And what else? Couple of words about Cumulus that for those that got in today, we were founded as a network in 1990. Today we are 340 members from 61 countries, and 6 of them are in Russia. Great opportunity for friends coming from outside, starting collaboration with our universities in this country. Also keeping in mind that, I mean, what is Cumulus? We are the association that on this globe represent education and research in art, design, and media with a strong focus in design. And you guys, you academics, you all can correct me and also work deeply in media and in arts. If we are successful, I can also blame myself that we can even reach 1 million students and a massive number of people thanks to our Cumulus bilateral partners. Roughly 50 of them are quite active with us. So again, human potential is enormous. And go and spend time and have a look at cumulusassociation.org. That's the website of ours. But what's next? I could say, oh gosh, we are like a boiling kettle with tasty stuff. I hope good cooks together. Our hosts will publish. The sessions are online. And the planet is small. Next year is coming. In Italy, we will be rocking 8th to 11th of June, hosted by La Sapienza University in Rome. There will be the next Cumulus conference. And the website, it's available at our site, but I'm saying that again here, cumulusroma2020.org. No, what's there? Short wrap up or longer, too long. It's about design cultures. Don't ask me what this is, but it goes around Rome. That is a genuine place for the humanity. The theme has undoubtedly an international appeal by addressing the challenges of our time. And the city of Rome is the ultimate place to embody such quality. It's notoriously a rich city for its history and tradition, but also an important global capital, which is projected towards the future. So it matches with this topic, design cultures. Roma, we all know it's a cosmopolitan and multicultural city, which treasures a multitude of concepts and visions. So we'll experience them next soon in some months. In such scenario, which is rich in history and culture, attendees are also invited to visit and learn about the city of great interest and nurture our next generation of talent by getting there or joining online. We have to keep in mind, we would not be here without our students, our young graduates, older ones as well, concerning doctorate degrees in many countries, for instance. Design Cultures Conference also celebrates Cumulus 30 years anniversary. So let's applaud to us. Welcome to join. Registration to Rome is open. Hurrah all, flag eye for creativity, love from Cumulus. And I can't avoid closing my short say by saying спасибо большое нашему 3 гостям. Мы вернемся. We'll be back.
Thank you so much, Eija Salmi, Cumulus Secretary General. Thank you for your warm support for our team, and I see that our guys are very happy about your words. Thank you so much. And now we move to end of our conference, of our part, sorry, not our conference, but our plenary session. And now I would like to say some words, summarize our plenary session. It covered various aspects of the in between of human and digital, and I think that we build a conversation between person who started and used very different technologies. For example, artificial intelligence, digital art, user experience, and interaction design. And I think that we receive very interesting facts and figures, and we can now recognize, okay, sorry. A little louder, okay, sorry. Now we, we move to the end, and our plenary session covered various aspects of our cutting-edge technologies, for example, artificial intelligence, digital art, user experience, interaction design. And now we could recognize all these facts and figures that we receive from our speakers. And I'm sure that next time we could move in this theme more deeply and maybe find some new way of thinking and doing with the digital and with the interaction design. And our organizers asked me to inform you that you can find on our conference website a new online exhibition, and I'm sure that it will be very interesting materials on this exhibition. And as for me, I'm very proud that we, could explain very different part of design reality, and now we need to finish and to to move on in another reality of our life. So thank you everyone for coming, and I'm sure that you receive a great pleasure from our events.